Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is David Strong by Lee, personal trainer and registered dietitian in New York. And today we're going to talk for the next few minutes about water, helping you get in your water intake. If you want to improve how much water you're taking in because you understand how important it is, yet you are struggling to get in your water logistically, I hope this segment can help you. And we're going to talk about some strategies to help you improve the intake of your water, strategies that have helped me and my clients. Now, before we move ahead, you want to ask yourself, why are you struggling to get in your water? Is it because you really lack the knowledge? You don't know how much water you should take in? You're just really busy schedule-wise? You have a lot of responsibilities. So when you get wrapped up and busy, one of the main things that falls to the wayside is your water intake? Or do you just not want to drink more water? Or do you not take your health serious enough to drink more water? Or maybe you say you take your health seriously enough, yet you're still struggling to get in your water intake. Or are you using excuses to not drink more water? You really have to ask if it's a logistical thing or if it's an emotional thing. If it's an emotional thing, maybe the strategies listed herein can help you, but you have to make that mental commitment to get more water into your system, because many of us understand how important water is. It's essential. It's absolutely critical for our survival. You can probably survive, 3 days without water? Whereas with food, depending on how much extra fat you have, you can last anywhere between 7 to 30 days. Water is absolutely essential. Our body is made up of at least 60% water. Our brain is made up of water. Our muscles are made up of water. Water is involved in every conceivable metabolic process in the body. We need water in order to go to the bathroom. We need water to manage our stress. We need water to do every single little thing possible. So it stands to reason that we need to drink high volumes of water every single day. And I think that is one of the main problems that people run into when it comes to drinking water, because you have to drink a lot of water compared to food. A lot of water. We're talking about half of your body weights at least in water in ounces per day. That's half of your body weight, up to 0.75 times your body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking anywhere between 100 to 150 ounces of water per day. And if you think 150 ounces is a lot, you would be absolutely correct, because that's 22 ounces more than a gallon. Do you know how much water is in a gallon? Even 100 ounces is a lot. That's 28 ounces less than a gallon, but that's still a lot. The standard recommendation that the government says to people is 8 cups of water. Do you know how much a cup is? A standard cup is 8 fluid ounces. That's 8 times 8. That's 64 ounces of water. And if we're looking at the recommendation of 0.5 to 0.75, which has been put forth by other health professionals, dietitians, coaches, then 8 times 8 is 64 might not meet the needs of a lot of people, especially people who are over 170 pounds, which is a lot of people in the US, unfortunately. But other factors can determine how much water you take in, how active you are, how much you're sweating, how much muscle mass you have, your genetics, your age, what the temperatures are. Really, those things can alter how much water you take in, but that formula, 0.5 to 0.75, should be enough to cover almost all the bases for over 98% of people. So now that you know the formula, do you think you can still get in enough water? If you can, then maybe we can start laying out a schedule. When I was in the military, before I became a personal trainer, I was unhealthy as can be. You would look at me, think, oh wow, he's thin, he could probably run fast, he may not look strong, but he could probably run fast, he's probably quick. Little did people know that internally I was a shipwreck. I would drink an average of 8 cans of Mountain Dew, sugar sweetened beverages per day. That's an average of 300 grams of sugar, added sugar per day. That is insane. No wonder when I was 20 and I went to my last medical physical before I decided to turn my life around, was I diagnosed as pre-diabetic because my fasting blood sugar was over 100. This is coming from somebody who had absolutely no genetic predisposition for diabetes. No one in my family, my immediate family bloodline, had diabetes. I was thin. I was weak, but thin, and I was light. So I should have no business being a pre-diabetic, but I was. So I had to turn my life around, and then I started to drink more water, but not without struggle, like many people. I struggled to get in water because I didn't like the taste. I thought it was bland. It had no texture, if texture was even a thing. And back then, there really wasn't kombucha. There wasn't a bunch of other things that I could turn to. There weren't thousands of different companies putting out flavored waters to try to get people to drink more water. It was just water, sodas, juices. Those really were all I could drink, and coffee and tea, obviously. But I wasn't big into coffee and tea back then. I was just big into juices and sodas. And back then, I thought juices were healthier than sodas. And I think if you really look at the ingredients, they are marginally healthier because there are some other ingredients in sodas that we want to be careful of, such as the phosphoric acid, the caramel color, the flavorings, and the additional carbonation. But by and large, they're relatively the same. One can of Mountain Dew or Dr. Pepper, which were my drinks of choice, contained 40 grams of added sugar. The body can really process up to 75 grams of fructose. The liver can process up to 75 grams of fructose per day. And I was drinking in excess of 150 grams per day, high fructose corn syrup. No wonder my blood sugars were through the roof. So as I was trying to build in water into my day, the number one recommendation that I can give to you that worked for me was drink water on a schedule. Treat it like anything else that's on your schedule, like eating, going to the gym, having work meetings, spending time with your kids, because putting it on your schedule and treating it like an appointment or something that's set in stone, or at least has a little bit more control over your day, you'll be able to be more conscientious about it. You'll be more organized and you'll take it more seriously. And water should be taken very seriously, even though we have to drink so much of it every single day. And the risk of us taking it for granted because we have to drink so much is really high. But put it on your schedule. Divvy up and distribute the amount of water you need to drink every single day through 3 to 4 different types of water feeding times. I found that worked the best for me. As soon as you wake up, drink water before you do anything else. If you need to put a glass of water right next to your nightstand or on your nightstand, right next to your nightstand, what is it going to be, on your bed? On your nightstand, somewhere where you can see it as soon as you wake up and you have to pass by it in order to get to where you want to go. If you want to make water intake a little bit easier, track your water intake. Track your water like you track your food, you track other things that you really care about. Maybe even use marked bottles. I have shaker bottles that mark 24 to 32 ounces, and I try to drink 3 32-ounce bottles per day of fluid, of water, mainly water, at least 80% water. The other 20% might come in the form of coffee and tea, and we could talk about that a little bit later. I don't really drink that much sugar sweetened beverages nowadays, maybe 4 to 6 per year, but you can drink those. It's okay in moderation as long as it is factored into the big picture of your personalized macronutrient plan, which is something we can talk about in the future as well. So make a schedule. Try to distribute when you're going to drink water. Drink water as soon as you wake up because you're going to eat that frog, drinking water, eating that frog, the irony of the words. This was a suggestion put forth by Brian Tracy in which you have the most control, the most willpower in the morning. So why not get the big thing out of the way first, the most unpleasant, uncomfortable thing first? It's kind of like eating a frog. Get it out of the way first by doing it in the morning. So drink a big thing of water, chug it, a third or a quarter of your daily intake, and then divvy up the rest throughout the day. So if you need to drink 100 ounces of water per day, then maybe drink anywhere between 25 to 33 ounces as soon as you wake up in the morning. In the beginning, it might be a freaking chore because that is a lot of water to drink at one time. How much water do you think you drink at one time? I think on average, my clients drink 8 ounces of water as soon as they wake up in the morning, and some of them do that because they need to take a medication or a supplement. Most people have a very difficult time drinking water. They don't think about it. It's not one of those things that really occurs to them. They know it's important, but it doesn't occur to them because they haven't created the structure, the routine around water, precisely because I think a lot of people take it for granted, or they just get busy, they get wrapped up, and it leaves out of sight, out of mind. So drink it first thing in the morning. When it comes to drinking water around your meals, I prefer to drink it before and or after meals. I don't like to drink water during my meals because I don't want to create extra volume in my stomach with water, because water does create volume and it gives you a false momentary sense of fullness and satiety, which, if you think about it, might sound like a good idea, especially if you're trying to lose fat, but it's actually not, because it gives you a false temporary sense of fullness. And then your stomach will contract to its normal size after after the water diffuses and the stomach returns to its normal size, you'll be hungry again, especially when you're eating. And when you're eating, you want to fill your stomach up with as much energetic volume as possible so your body can stay full longer, so your body can spend more time processing that food. Same thing applies for muscle gain. You want to shove in as much calories as possible because you're trying to be in a calorie surplus when you're trying to build muscle and gain weight. And if you're filling up your stomach with calorie-free water, then you're probably going to be taken away from your gain potential. And also, there's an ancient Chinese proverb where if you drink cold water, temperature of the water, I think, can matter to some people. I used to have a client who hated cold water. He only really wanted to drink room temperature water because he believed that it affected the body's metabolism differently. And the ancient Chinese proverb might substantiate his philosophy, in which the Chinese believe that if you drink cold water while eating, you douse the fire of the belly. And that's physiologically speaking, and this is true, when you eat, your body increases core temperature and creates what's called the thermic effect of food. Your body actually has to use calories in order to extract the calories from the food. So there is a net loss of calories when you're actually eating, and it accounts for about 10%. So if you eat a meal that has 500 calories, your body's probably going to use 10% of those calories to actually break it down. So the net calories of a 500 calorie meal will probably be around 450. But the idea behind this proverb is if you drink cold water, you might make it a little bit more difficult for your body to process and metabolize that food. You'll still have that thermic effect of food, but your body will have a more difficult time breaking that food down because the water temperature is interfering with it. I don't really know how valid that is. It could be valid. You can experiment with it to see how valid it is. I don't like drinking ice cold water while I am eating. I like to drink warm tea, hot beverages, or warm soup because I think those drinks make my stomach feel a little bit better. And also there might be the idea that the temperature of the water might also determine the rate in which it leaves the stomach. Cold water might leave the stomach a little bit later versus warm water, which, because it's around the same temperature as the body, can diffuse out of the stomach lining a little bit faster. But I don't know how true that is. That's something that I'll have to look up. What about sugar-sweetened beverages? What about other beverages that contain calories? You obviously can put them into your diet. There's always a time and a place for a lot of things. I'm not a big fan of labeling foods bad or good because I think that's too judgmental and objective. But there are foods that have a relative effect on your health, and drinking Mountain Dew has a negative relative effect on your health. So you're probably not going to have as much wiggle room if you drink something like soda or beer or coffee with cream, sugar, and milk in it. You have to take those nutrients into account. If you have a personalized macronutrient recommendation of 300 grams for calories and you drink a 40 gram of sugar drink of Mountain Dew, then you have 260 grams of carbohydrates to make up for the rest of the day. If we look into this a little bit further, which I highly recommend you do because I don't believe all calories, all nutrients are created equal, then you'll also see that the body can't process 300 grams of just any carbohydrate. There are different types of sugar. There's galactose, there's fructose, and then there's glucose. Your body processes and uses them differently. Fructose has to be pretty much processed in the liver. But table sugar and high fructose corn syrup is 50%, around 50% fructose. So if you have too much added sugar, table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, you're going to overload the liver's capacity to process fructose, and that might lead into negative downstream health consequences. We don't really know what those things are, but you can probably say more stress on the liver, more stress on the kidney, more fat spillover, insulin insensitivity at the liver and at the fat tissue. You're probably going to have poor blood sugar control because the carbs and the sugars aren't going to the muscles and the brain, whatever have you. Those can be all the negative implications associated with overloading the body with added sugar. And of course, you have a rise in your blood sugar, which is what I experienced when I was in the military. And a consistent elevations in blood sugar can eventually lead to diabetes because it exhausts your pancreas, which is an organ that releases insulin. That's a hormone that's responsible for bringing blood sugar levels down. Then eventually your muscles and your livers can become insulin insensitive. Fat tissues continue to be insulin sensitive, which is why diabetics tend to gain weight after they become diabetic and they have poorly managed blood sugar. Those are a lot of the negative ramifications of sugar and sugar-sweetened beverages. And of course, that can apply to other nutrients that contain sugar. Milk can be one of those, but I'm sure milk doesn't have as much of an intense effect on blood sugar as pure sugar does. But if you add milk to your coffee, your teas, you have to take that into consideration. I once had clients who swore they didn't add a lot of milk and cream into their teas. I saw one client's tea, and I swear it looked almost as chalky as the milk. And we found out that he was putting in almost a quarter cup of milk every single time he had tea. And he probably had tea 3 to 4 times a day. That's a cup, 2 cups of milk per day. That's about 300 to 400 extra calories that he's taking in every single day, which is why I said it's really important to track how much water you're drinking the same way that you would track your food. Because if you can track your water, you can also track any potential calorie creep that comes in through those liquids, if that is an issue for you. Teas and coffee contain caffeine, or they can contain caffeine if you choose the ones that do contain caffeine. Of course, you have decaf teas, but I think more people will tend to turn towards the caffeinated beverages instead. And caffeine can be concerning, not in necessarily a negative way, but just concerning because it has an effect on your metabolism. And that is, too much caffeine can be diuretic. That is, if you drink too much coffee, black tea, green tea, you'll end up pissing out more liquid than what you're actually bringing in. If you want to figure out how much coffee you can drink or how much caffeine containing beverages you can drink, track how much you're drinking, and then also track how much additional fluids you're drinking. Take the coffee and teas into account. For example, if you drink 3 cups of coffee per day, which is about 24 ounces of fluid, and you need to drink 100 ounces of fluid per day, then try to drink the rest of the 76 ounces of fluid in water and see how that affects you. If you feel dehydrated, if you feel that you need to drink more water, if you feel that you're peeing a lot, and then of course you look at your hydration chart. And the hydration chart is a 9-quadrant chart that looks at the different color hues and saturations of urine. Your urine color, if you go to Google and you just look up hydration urine chart, you want to be numbers 3, 4, and 5. Those are generally middle of the line, pale, light yellow. You want to avoid being clear because that can mean you're being overhydrated. And then eventually, if you do that consistently enough, you'll experience a condition called hyponatremia, which is essentially low blood volume as a result of low sodium. You can also go in the other direction where it's really dark, and that means that your kidneys are stressed out a lot, so the urine is dark. You're dehydrated. And of course, look at the consistency of your stool. If you're constipated, that usually means you're dehydrated or you're having way too much fiber. If you're diarrheaing, maybe you're having too much water and or you're having too much of the wrong types of fiber. Water is essential in every process in the body. You want to take into consideration a lot of different things. If you want to use water to achieve optimal performance, look, move, and feel better, and live your best life possible. I want to wrap it up because I don't want this to get too long. If you have any specific questions, comments, or concerns, perspectives, stories, experiences with water that you think might help me understand you a little bit better, or you want to use those experiences to serve as an inspiration for other people, please share them with me. I want to hear from you. I want to create more valuable content, long form, short form, whatever form. Send me your questions and feedback to david@strongbylee.com. That's david@strongbylee.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.